So I've been playing a lot of this game called Gray Zone Warfare, and it has been a pretty phenomenal experience. It is not a Tarkov killer like everybody and their mother has been suggesting that it is, but it definitely has the potential to become a very strong Tarkov competitor. I don't think it will ever kill off battle state games, revolutionary, genre-defying, whatever you want to call it, extraction shooter, because both of these games scratch two different itches, but it is still very good. It's only 20% completed and super early in its life cycle, so there's so much in there already. We're just going to chat about some pros, some cons, and honestly just tell you if it's worth picking up if you're in the market for buying it. After about 40 hours or so, I feel like I can give a very good opinion on and a very good insight on how the early game is going to look like for you and what your first couple hours are going to be and if it's worth your time. So let's just get into it and start talking about a lot of the good things this game has to offer. First and foremost, Gray Zone Warfare stands out from EFT and some of the competitors because it is a persistent open world extraction shooter. Escape from Tarkov has the predominant issue of being very small and instant based. You pick a map to load into, everyone starts at the same time, and that allows the very hardcore, sweaty players who have been playing for a very long time the knowledge of exactly where you'll spawn, where you'll walk, when you'll walk there, and what you're doing based on the time of the current wipe, because people can predict that stuff for how long they've been doing it. The average play time that I've seen on Tarkov is literally like 2,000 hours, 4,000 hours. If you have anything under that, if you have like 1,000 to 500, it's people will actually report you for cheating. It's kind of wild. So removing the close quarters maps and removing the ability to be bottlenecked and forced into PvP, because when you load up into Tarkov, you're pretty much guaranteed to see other players and you're forced to PvP. But removing that and having a persistent open world gives this different feeling of tension. It's not a tension of, oh my god, when am I going to fight somebody? And it doesn't feel bad. It's this sense of, I'm not alone. I could bump into somebody at any time, but it's not guaranteed. And it's actually a little bit more relieving, and you would think it would be reversed, because if you know you're going to be coming against somebody, you would be more ready for it. But I find, at least in my own play sessions, that I have been more prepared for PvP when it's not guaranteed. I'm able to react better. My decision-making process is just overall more confident because I'm not afraid to do things. In EFT, I'm afraid to do half the shit I need to do because I know I'm probably going to fight somebody. And I'm just not a fan of the PvP in Tarkov. If I wanted to do that, I would go play Arena. Will I say skill issue? Sure, because I'll be the first one to admit I'm not the best PvP player. I don't like engaging with it. I try to talk to people, but I usually get punished for that because no one really talks, and EFT there's no social interaction. More on that later. Tarkov just has, in my opinion, the best gunplay gun simulation currently, so it's really fun to interact with. Just the PvP is not equally as enjoyable. So having this persistent open world that lives even when you're not playing is really relieving, and it's just such a nicer feeling. If anyone has played The Division and have gone into the dark zone, it kind of has that same feeling, with pointed interests dotted around the map that you go to find things and loot and then try to get out. It has that same, like, you can spend 2 hours or more in the bigger dark zones in the first game, and you're likely not even to run into anybody. To me, I just find that more enjoyable. And having a lot of play space allows tactical combat engagements to be more fulfilling, because instead of being forced to smash your face against your opponent, you are allowed more mobility opportunities. Of course, you can move around in Tarkov, but you're still going to have to more or less walk past that person. Everything's a choke point. Most of the Tarkov maps are just one giant choke point. Here, you can move around someone entirely, you can reposition, you can flank, you can scout, you can do just everything to make PvP feel a little bit more skill-based instead of knowledge-based in terms of like your playtime. Like if you have smart engagements, you're likely to beat someone who might have better stuff than you. It's just really relieving to have that much space. In Gray Zone Warfare, there's also a very robust healing and health system. And unlike Tarkov and other military extraction shooters, on top of the already in-depth system of healing yourself on your injuries, there's also a organ and critical damage type system. So your organs can actually be hit. So if you get shot in your lungs, you're wheezing, coughing, you're gonna be shaky. And depending on the other organs you get in on, you'll get different debuffs according to that organ. This is really basic right now because of how early the game is, but we have the skeleton for something very complex and good here. A lot of the things I'm going to say are skeletons because of how early the game is in its life cycle. But if you come from these other extraction shooters, you have all of the same things you're used to: splints for broken legs, bandages for bleeding, tourniquets for heavy bleed stoppers. You have injectors, all of that stuff that you're used to. And once you get used to the system in GZW, it's going to feel right at home and you'll be able to pick it up with ease. If you're brand new to this type of game and this type of healing system, it's going to be a little bit of a culture shock because most times you just automatically heal in these first-person shooters, but all of the healing is going to be done by you, and blood loss as well. I forgot to mention that you can actually lose blood, and you have blood packs to use to give yourself more blood. So again, if you're used to this type of system, you're going to go and feel right at home. But if you're brand new, it's going to be a little bit of a culture shock, but stick with it and you'll learn it pretty quick. Everything's labeled pretty nice and accordingly. Another big component is tasks and questing. Now again, if you've come from other games like this, you know exactly what these are. These are just your day-to-day tasks that help you progress through the quote-unquote story and reward you with the most gear and money. It's how you get your income. There are 150 different tasks in Gray Zone Warfare currently, with more slated to come out as the game is developed to continue the story, and it seems like they have a really interesting story in mind with this weird anomaly in the middle of the map, so on and so forth. But there are 150 quests. They're either really hard or really easy. And the quest progression is really nice in Gray Zone Warfare. I think it's better than Tarkov. When you start, you get tasks that are beginner tasks that are only in the starting town of your factions. There are 3 factions in this game. Each have the same starter town, and your beginning quests are always there, which minimize pretty much entirely, unless you're a psychopath who like to go to other people's starting towns, the chances of running into other players, so you can learn the game and get used to how the AI fights and moves and just get accustomed to the world you're going to be inhabiting. As you complete more quests, they get progressively more difficult, and it's going to push you further into the map to other points of interest that are more neutral, closer to other factions, which increase the probability of you getting into PvP. And I really like this. It feels better than Tarkov because there's no sense of task progression in Tarkov. You're just doing things for vendors. I think the open world kind of contributes to this because it feels like you're on a journey moving inwards, doing harder things and getting more rewards. So overall, it just feels really nice. And this also kind of ties in with exploration because a lot of the tasks are exploration tasks at the start. And going to a new point of interest like Midnight Sapphire or Tiger Bay is really cool because you're kind of exploring this new area for the first time, and it has the sense of, oh shit, where is anything at? Because you get used to a lot of the other POIs quickly, so you can kind of know what AI are. So exploration is really nice. And unfortunately, because of how early we are, there's not that much in the way of loot, like how Tarkov has valuable items you can buy and sell. They did just release a community video, I'll link that here. And they are saying that you will be able to get more valuable items to sell to encourage you to go out and loot, as well as crafting. Crafting's on the way too, so that's pretty freaking awesome. But either way, the way you progress from starter tasks to more endgame tasks and exploring the world feels really nice and rewarding. You feel like you're getting better at the game as time goes on. I really don't need to touch on the realism aspects. I'll just say the game is very realistic, but it's a lot more casual than Tarkov. It is a extraction shooter for the people who have actual lives, who are married, who have kids, or just don't have time in the week to commit to these games or gaming in general. Because in Tarkov, if you stop playing for 2 weeks, a month, you're pretty much shit out of luck and you're not going to have fun because everyone's going to be so far ahead. Tarkov was turned into this competitive thing that it was never supposed to be. It was supposed to be a survival military extraction shooter, realistic, so on and so forth, but it turned into this rush to get to the end so you can dominate. So you're not really allowed to play that game casually, which is really unfortunate, which contributes to those crazy high play times. But Gray Zone Warfare is unbelievably casual. You're not forced to PvP all the time, and everyone's relatively on the same playing field most of the time. Ammo doesn't feel as crazy important, and armor seems just overall really good. So it is just a good experience, and if you're new to the extraction shooter genre and you want a game that's not Tarkov, because from the outside Tarkov's intimidating as hell, this is a really good gateway into the genre. And finally, for the good here, we have social interaction. This game actually has social interaction and encourages it with your faction mates and maybe even enemies. Tarkov does not encourage social interaction. Everybody in Tarkov will go out their way to ruin your day.
guys are assholes, huh? You guys are assholes, huh? Ladies and gentlemen, the Tarkov community at its finest. Round of applause for this shitty fucking community. Let's be edgy, guys! Let's be fucking edgy! Let's all be edgy! Airsoft edgy!
And will just insult you, call you slurs, or just make fun of you and not use social interaction at all, or trick you. Tricking you is a little bit different. I think it's pretty interesting if you can trick someone using VoIP, but most of the time people don't engage with it and they'll just kill you. There's no incentive to work together. Gray Zone Warfare, however, I've had many occasions where people went out of their way to help me with the quests. I learned how to cheese some quests that were annoying, and people just talking to you and joining you is really great. I made a few great friends from Gray Zone Warfare already, just out on my own operations. We helped each other out. I actually revived somebody from a coma. I did forget to mention that. You actually fall into a coma depending on how injured you are instead of dying right away, which allows other people to revive you. And I've managed to do that, made a great friend out of it. So just social interaction feels so good, and it's just a nice thing on top of this game, so it doesn't feel lonely. While there are a lot of great things about this game, there are also a lot of bad things because of how early it is. I'm going to cover the most important ones. I'm not going to worry about the nitpicking small details that everyone likes to throw out there. Only the most important ones, so you have a better informed idea about this game. So the first two, which are critical, is server instability and optimization. Currently, the optimization for a lot of different cards are very bad. If you're the type of person that really likes graphics high and cannot play games if you have to set it to lower, I would say wait. This game runs on Unreal Engine 5, which is a fantastic engine, makes things look stellar, but the optimization isn't quite there yet. So if you must have your graphics on the highest settings, then I would say wait. Also, server instability is a problem. There's a lot of rubber banding. It's going to be a thing that happens to you. It's just unavoidable. Make sure you're on the correct server, make sure your connection's good, and it minimizes it. But if this is an immersion breaker for you and you can't handle rubber band, I would say wait as well. Just keep an eye on the patch notes, keep an eye on the community, and see how these things improve. But I just want to throw it out there. Games are more than just graphics. I think as we were spoiled by these amazing engines and development studios, we kind of lost sight that games are experiences. They're ways to escape, and they're supposed to be enjoyable. Not everything is based off how pretty something looks, and trust me, I like graphics, but playing the game is better than not playing it at all. So if you're able to take a breath and lower the settings and watch some optimization guides and setting guides, you're probably going to find something that works for you. It might not be on the highest graphics, but the game is really enjoyable, and even on medium to like high, even low, it looks pretty good. This game's medium is other games high, and this game's high are other games ultra. It's pretty stellar, and if you can get it to work, it looks great. But again, playing it is better than not playing it at all. There are a lot of quests in Gray Zone Warfare that require you to have certain keys to open up buildings, and this wouldn't be an issue if the keys were easier to find, because currently their drop rates are drastically rare, and I come from Destiny 2, and that is a notoriously grindy game, and I find the drop rates for the keys infuriating. I've had weak sprees where I couldn't get past a certain quest because I couldn't get the key to drop. And I was basically going around the fob like a homeless man with a fucking tin cup going, "Please, sir, do you have the key for the elder's house?" And literally begging for hours if someone had the key. That was more efficient than going and killing the AI and hoping they had it, because the keys only spawn on the AI around the quest location. It can be really painful and a just momentum killer when you get stuck on these. Also, there are some quests that require you to kill a specific enemy in a point of interest landmark, and again, might not sound like the biggest deal, but when there's 45 other people on the map, you're competing with your faction and the two others, it can be quite RNG if one, the point of interest isn't cleared, and if you manage to kill the guy you need to kill. Again, I've been hard stuck with the Negotiator and a Blue Lagoon kill quest for a week at a time, and finally getting past them was pretty relieving. I will say the quests can get pretty repetitive, as even if the progression of them is really satisfying. I've noticed that your standard cycle of quests will be go to this new point of interest, scout it out, mark some locations, get a few things, and then you're going to have a task that tells you to kill 20 people there, and then finally you're going to have tasks that tell you to kill a boss. That's pretty much the cycle. I recently started getting newer quests that require you to go somewhere, get something, and not die, which I haven't gotten up until this point. So that could break. I'm only about like 55 quests deep, so maybe there are a few at the end that break that cycle, but right now that can get a little repetitive, and hopefully more quests come out in the future that kind of spice it up a little bit, because when I go to a new point of interest, I'm mentally preparing myself for the same type of loop that I've already done like 5 other times before. And finally, a side effect, and one of the most negative things about this game, other than the server instability and optimization, are landing zone campers and the unreliability of helicopters currently. So when I say landing zone, Gray Zone Warfare has landing zones dotted around the map covering the point of interest. They're basically your entryway to do your quests and to get into the map. And a lot of people will go to more popular ones and sit in bushes and wait for you to land and then kill you the second your butt's off that seat. Escape from Tarkov has this as well, where people sit at your exits and will wait for you to get there to kill you and take all your stuff. Like I said, it's a really unfortunate side effect for this genre of game. There will be an audience of people that will make it their life mission to make everyone's day horrible and try to ruin your fun. It's just going to be a thing that this attracts people to. And the devs have come out to say they are working on ways to combat LZ camping by adding more landing points, making them more dynamic. The community has also suggested adding a minigun that auto-targets them, or smoke that lands, or even a brief time period of immortality. And I think that little window of invulnerability will be probably the better bet, because some people don't even LZ camp, they're just trying to leave, or they're trying to traverse the map. I've had it happen a few times where I'm just passing a landing zone and someone else lands, so sometimes people aren't exit camping, they're just trying to move around, so a gun that auto-targets them won't be beneficial. A smoke would hardly help because people will just shoot through it. And this, the scariest part of every run and every operation I do is literally landing at an LZ. Once I'm in the tree line, I feel significantly safer. But again, this is really important to know going into it, because I've been exit camped a bunch already, I've been landing zone camped a bunch already, and it can really suck. But it's just a side effect of this genre. Speaking of landing zones and helicopters, the other negative is how long it can take to exit. Every faction can only have 4 helicopters out at one time, and you could be sitting at your base waiting for a helicopter to arrive for 4 to 5 minutes. You can also be waiting at an LZ for upwards to 10 to 15 minutes, because a flight across the map to some faraway POIs can actually take like 4 to 5 minutes to get there. And there's a queue, so you could be waiting a long time. And the system right now is whoever clicks the call helicopter button first gets it. Other people have to wait. Again, devs have proposed a few different fixes for this. For example, having a destination tracker so people can see where your other helicopters on your faction are going, to make it so there's less solo helicopters going out, which is probably going to solve the issue. But it could suck if you're just waiting for 15 minutes and you get killed on your way out after you did all your stuff. But is Gray Zone Warfare, with all that said and done, all of the good and bad now in your mind, is it worth picking up? Simply put, yes, it is. If you are into tactical shooters, military simulation games to a certain extent, extraction shooters, and just slow-paced stuff, then you will feel right at home in this game. If you can deal with some jank and some glaring issues, then I say pick up the base edition, and if you find you like it, upgrade slowly over time. And that's worth a note. Like Tarkov, there are base editions you can buy. You have the starter, you have enhanced, so on, so you have like 3 other editions you can buy. Each has increasing levels of rewards, a bigger stash size, more starting money, a bigger secure container, all of that stuff. Some argue it's pay to win, but it's not, because everything you can lose on you, it's only helping you get a better start, but everyone's going to end up at the same playing field at the end of the day anyway, because the game will wipe. That is something to keep in mind if you're new to the genre. This game will wipe every few months, which introduce new content, new fixes, quality of life, and restarts everybody to the very beginning. But this game is very promising, and it is definitely worth picking up if you're in the market for this type of game. With all that said, thank you so much for hanging out and listening to my thoughts on this game, and if you like this content, feel free to drop a sub, And if you want to see me live, head over to twitch.tv/ember_loom, where I play a lot of Escape from Tarkov. Gray Zone Warfare is really hard to stream right now because of the instability and optimization, but I do a lot of other games as well, and in the tactical space. So, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on Lemang Island.